What's up, idols? It's CC Lesson 3. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for clicking on this video. So, I'm just gonna jump right into it and tell you about something awful that just happened to me. If you follow me on Patreon, then you already know what this video is about. But for those who don't, let's get right into it. So I was just in the US for over a month because we had a family reunion, we had a family vacation, and we also ended up having a funeral in the family. So I stayed longer than I planned to, more on that in a bit. And I just came back to the UK Friday. August 30th was Marika's birthday. I wanted to be back in time for her birthday because I did miss Carnival, and I did miss, I bought a concert ticket. I was supposed to go with them to see Marsha Montana, and I missed him even though I paid for the ticket, and I was supposed to go to Carnival. So a lot of things happened very last minute. I'm just kind of used to that, which is why typically in my life I don't like to book things in advance because I never know what's gonna happen, because life always does happen. So I left Baltimore, Maryland, my hometown. I had a 9:20 flight. It was going to be an overnight flight. I was going to land in the morning nonstop so I could try to get some sleep on the plane, land, come straight here, party with Marika and her friends, and have fun because it's been a while since I've seen them all. So we were a little delayed, and I got in around 10 a.m. By 10:15, I was detained by customs, border agents, immigration, whatever you want to call them. And let me tell you about this 12-hour detainment and what happened to me. So typically, because I'm an American, when I come to the UK, I get a 6-month tourist visit visa. And usually I just go through the e-gate. So I just scan and go through. I don't get a stamp, I don't get a sticker, I don't talk to a human, nothing like that. But I did see that the people in front of me were having issues with the gate. Like, they had to try their passport 2 times before it went through. I tried it 3 times, didn't go through. So I said, please seek assistance with a human. So went to go talk to a human. And they asked me, what's the purpose of your visit? I said, it's my friend's birthday today. They asked me the last time I was here. I was like, I was just here in July. And I know that it's a very sketchy, I don't blame them for finding it suspicious how often I'm here and how long I'm here, because if you're here for such a long time and you're here so frequently, they probably assume you're bringing illegal things in, you're working illegal, you got to be able to sustain yourself somehow. But I'm like, okay, I'll just explain to them I'm like a YouTuber, I'm a content creator. As long as I have my camera, Wi-Fi, my laptop, I can make money wherever I go. And I do. I vlog and film in every country that I'm in. I never just stop. I always film wherever I am. So yeah, at 10:15, I was detained. It's funny because I just so didn't expect this. I had my taxi already outside waiting for me, and they're giving me and Marika shit because they're like, we drove all this way, you owe us 65 pounds or you're banned. And I'm like, well, I don't even know if I'm gonna be landing in the country, so I guess I'll deal with being banned from the taxi company. What's annoying and very degrading is they put you in, you're not in a secret room at first or anything like that. The e-gate countries, there's the EU countries, Australia, Korea, New Zealand, the US, Canada, places like that. So you just go through the e-gate. It's usually a short line because you just scan a passport and you go. And then there's the other line where if you don't have those passports, you have to queue up and talk to a person. And they have you in it's not a cage area, but it's a fenced in area. It's like a gate. And you just sit there and wait to be addressed and talked to. So I'm telling my mom, my grandmother, Marika, her family, my boyfriend, I'm like, so I've been detained, isn't this crazy? And the fact that I was there for so long and people are looking at me looking at everybody in the area ooh, they probably trying to bring something in. They're probably traffickers. They're probably false documents, a fake passport and stuff. So I'm just sitting there I cannot believe I'm over here. I've done nothing wrong. Remember, it was 10:15 when I first got pulled to the side, sat there, have to wait to be questioned. So they coming over little by little asking me stuff so who is it that you're coming here to see? What's her name? What's her job? Well, how long have you known her? Questions like that. And they asked for her number. And what's funny is Marika is in my phone as Marika's sister wife with quotation marks and a purple heart. And they're like, sister wife? So then they're looking at me thinking, oh, are you in some sort of love scam thing? Are you coming over here to pay for them, or are they paying for you? I was like, no, listen, we are both just in a fictional relationship with the same Korean male rapper, singer, Namjoon, BTS. We're both married to him, so we call ourselves sister wife. It's just an inside joke. He did not believe me, though. He's thinking I'm really in a relationship with Marika. And then I was like, the cover of my phone, this is my boyfriend. He's like, oh, and where's your boyfriend? I'm like, he lives in Hong Kong. And he's like, Hong Kong? And I was like, yes, that's why I was there for 3 months. So just to help them establish the fact that when I go somewhere, it's usually on a one-way ticket, and I go for months and months at a time. When I'm in Korea, I stay with Bria for months and months at a time, one-way ticket. When I'm in Hong Kong, I was with my boyfriend. It was for some months that time, one-way ticket. And when I come here, I'm here for months and months at a time with a one-way ticket. That's just how I travel, because when I buy round-trip tickets, shit happens. I was able to make the funeral because I didn't buy a round trip ticket. So I didn't have to be oh no, I'm going to waste my money. Sorry, my mind is probably just rambling. There's just so much that I want to say, so much I got to get out. This was the craziest situation ever. So then I show him yeah, this is my boyfriend. He's like, okay, cool. And then they leave again. And then God, this is where so I do want to preface this by saying that For the most part, the staff, all of them were really nice, especially when you consider the fact that most of the people they deal with are probably being sketchy to some degree, trying to fake documents to get in, lying about their work history or their obligations and intentions, things like that. So to be that nice when they're used to people lying to you, like, there's only two people in this whole story that I don't even know if I can say two, because one guy was clearly in training. I hope he was in training, because if this was him as like his established worker and he still had this many questions to his colleagues, then he needs to be fired. But I'm pretty sure he was in training. And there was the other guy. That's the guy that's the villain of this story, in my opinion. An hour goes by, another hour goes by, another hour goes by, and finally a lady comes over to me. So it's been about 2-3 hours, and a lady comes over to me and asks if I need the bathroom or anything. And I'm like, yes, I actually do really need to pee, because I just landed from an overnight flight, so I'm tired. You don't really sleep that well on a plane. I'm hungry because I was trying to focus on sleeping. I didn't want to be waking up or woken up for the meals or whatever. And I had to pee because I just got off the plane and my taxi was waiting. So I was like, I'll just pee when I get back to Marika's. It's not that big of a deal. When they let me go to the bathroom, I had to ask permission to go, and I had to be escorted. And when you're being escorted around the airport by people that says like border force, and people are looking at, everybody was staring like I'm a criminal, I'm just like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. And you know, to their credit, they were very nice workers. Like, she was like, oh, you know, if you needed to go, you could have said something sooner. I'm so sorry. I don't know why you're still here this long. It's been a long time. And I was like, yeah, I don't either. I have no idea what's going on. That was at about 2 or 3 p.m. at this point. And then this is when the villain of this story finally walks in, and he comes over to me, asks me if I have any health conditions or any health issues, if I need any medications. I was like, nope, I'm fine. He's like, are you all right? I was like, yeah, just very, very confused. And then he asked me if I was hungry. I was like, yep, I didn't eat since last night before my flight. My flight was at 9:20 p.m. East Coast, so it was at like 2 a.m. UK time. So I didn't eat since about 2 a.m., 1 a.m., and it is now about 3 p.m. So then he comes over and asks me, like, why do I keep coming back? My travel history, because they have my passport. Like, I have nothing to hide. They can absolutely look at when I left the place, when I arrive at a place, how long let me just take a breath. I'm still so angry.
Breathe in. Boy.
Mind you, I was here for Marika's birthday. So, you know, she's like, where are you? What's going on? And I was like, oh my God, this is like, girl, I'm going to miss your birthday. Like, I'm still detained. No update whatsoever. So then they tell me, when the villain of this story, in my opinion, walks back over to me, he says, so soon, you know, you'll be taken to a room where you can have some coffee or tea and a meal because you haven't eaten. I was like, okay, great. That sounds lovely. Whatever. But like, how much longer am I going to be here? Because nobody's telling me anything. So I'm seeing people who were sat there after me and leaving before me. There was like a couple in the front, a guy in front of me, and they were there for a long time. Like, they were there before I got there. They're still there waiting with me. So I was just like, what is going on? Time passes. I need to go to the bathroom again. I have to be escorted, but I need a lady to come over so she can show me. And then the villain comes back over to me like another hour later, says the same thing. Soon we're going to take you to this room and you can have hot coffee, you can have tea, you can have food, you can watch TV and relax. And he also tells me that they have to search my bags. And I was like, okay, sure. So then he asked me like, oh, are your bags downstairs? I was like, I don't know. I've been here since 10 a.m. I don't know where my luggage is. I hope to God somebody put it to the side or something. So he's like, oh, 10. Wow, that's crazy. I was like, I know, right? That was at about 3:30. 4 o'clock comes and goes. 5 o'clock comes and goes. And finally, it's about 5:10-ish. And they finally tell me, okay, we're going to go get your luggage so you can have it checked. We got to check it. I was like, okay. So we go downstairs, and it's crazy because it's right in front of the baggage carousel. My bag is just sitting there. Like, I was like, oh, there's my bag. I saw it immediately. It wasn't put to the side. It wasn't tagged as like suspicious. I don't know. It was just sitting right there. I was like, well, that's my bag. He's like, you can tell that from here. I was like, that is my bag. So then he's like, you know, we got to ask you these questions before we search it. Did you pack the bag yourself? I'm like, yes. Are you aware of all the contents that's inside? I'm like, yeah. Aside from the fact that it was sitting there for like 7 hours. Yeah, I know what's in there. He asked me if I'm carrying anything on someone else's behalf. I was like, I have Chips Ahoy for Marika. I have Cheetos for her mom, and I have a birthday gift. So he's like, oh, what's in the Chips Ahoy? I'm like, chocolate chips, bro. I don't know. Like, so they take my bags and we go there, ask me if I have anything to declare. I say no. We go to the nothing to declare lane, and there's like these 10 tables that align the walkway. Like, usually when you have nothing to declare and you just take your luggage and you go right out to where people are waiting with signs and all this stuff, you can go to the taxi stand, and there's hella people going in that area, and they're just looking over and stopping like, oh wow, like wonder what they found in her bag, because usually people are searched when there's probable cause to search your bag, when they're like, there's drug traces or the dog went off around your suitcase and things like that. So I'm just like, I'm standing here looking like a whole ass criminal, and I've literally like, I don't know what's going on. I've done nothing wrong. So they go through all my bags. Of course, they find nothing. It doesn't change the fact that they were asking the dumbest questions. Like, if you follow me on Instagram, you saw that back in July, me and my boyfriend went to the Shard in London. I've never gone. I've always wanted to go. Finally got to go. So I had the ticket still in one of my pockets. So then one of the guys, he's like, "Oh, have you already been to the Shard, or are you going like soon?" I was like, that date says July 2024. Like it's expired. I already went. And he's like, "Oh, okay. When was that?" And I was like, look at the date on the ticket. Like, dude, I'm just getting so annoyed thinking about this all over again. And then on top of that, you know, the fact that it was two guys going through my stuff, and one of the things that they discovered in my suitcase was a little item called the rose. If you know, you know. I mean, I'm in a long distance relationship. He's over there, I'm here. People still have needs. So having to explain, oh, this is a toy, and they're like, huh? Like, what is this? And I'm just like, oh my God. And then on top of that, like, they were questioning so for example, like, they were just questioning the most random stuff in my suitcase. So for example, I recently got like a Louis wallet. Never had anything nice or high end like that. So I kept the box. I wanted to keep the packaging. It looked really nice. So he's like, "What is this?" I was like, "It's a box." He was like, "Why do you have it?" I was like, it's a Louis box. Like, I wanted to keep the packaging. Like, what? Oh my God. And then I had like this cute red sparkly gift card case because I was going to put Marika's gift card in it. And he's like, "Oh, what's this?" I was like, "It's a gift card holder because today's my friend's birthday and y'all are making me miss it." So then I can pack up all my stuff, and I have to do it in a hurry because now I have to go get fingerprinted and get my pictures taken. And then these two guys did not, oh my God. First they told me to put my fingers all together, like tightly, to have them read on the fingerprint scanner. But I was like, well, if I do that, then my thumb is sideways. Like I can't do them all 5 at once. I was like, the way I see it on like court shows and cop TV dramas or whatever, you do like the 4 and then you do the thumb separate. So we end up having to do that because I'm doing it. I'm like, I'm putting them as tight as I can, but I can't make my thumb lay flat with all my fingers pressed together. Like, that's just not how anatomy works. So then we finally do that after a few failed attempts. And then when it comes to taking my picture, we had to try like 8 times because the camera was leaning. And then they're both telling me 2 different things. Like, one's telling me to look at the camera, the other's telling me to look at the monitor. And then it kept coming back with an error saying unable to render image or something like that. And then they have to try it. They're like, "Oh, let me try it." I'm just like, this feels like a joke. Like, this is not serious, is it? There's feet where you're supposed to stand. They're telling me to go closer. They're telling me to go farther. I'm looking at the camera. Then he tells me to look at the monitor. So I look at the monitor and it's a blurry shot, and that's the one they chose to go with. I was like, that's okay, fine. So then I'm sitting there, and they told me next we're going to the care room, and that's where I'm gonna have a hot beverage and some food for the first time, because at this point it's like almost 5:30. So it's about 5:20, and we go to the room, and the guy immediately tells us, "Oh, she has to come back at like 5:30. Like, we're not ready yet." So I was like, okay. We go back to the other room. We sit there, and the guys are questioning me again about like, "Yeah, you know, it is really suspicious that you're here so often and so frequently." And I was like, "I'm just a YouTuber. I used to be an English teacher in Korea, and when I would go back to visit after I was teaching, I would stay with my friend Bria for like months at a time. When I was in California, aside from 2020, because I did have like a little rent agreement placed by myself, but when I was considering moving there in 2021, I was staying with Aaron, and we were apartment hunting together. I was staying with Aaron for a few months. And even here, I've been with Marika. Like, I am very fortunate that I have friends in different countries, different regions and everything, and they have space to accommodate me when I visit or when I have an extended visit. And I do pay them rent because I am occupying their space. Like, it's only reasonable. I pay Bria rent. I didn't pay Erin anything because she insisted, like, no, you're fine. You don't need to pay anything. Here, I offered, they let me, it's fine. And I'm explaining that to them. And he's like, "Oh, well, if you're a YouTuber and you're here so frequently, why don't you just get a work visa?" I was like, "Yeah, because I'm going to find someone to pay me for being a YouTuber, like to give me a work visa and sponsor me for being a YouTuber." And I was like, on top of that, all this time since 2021, on and off, I've been here and I've never been stopped, questioned, warned. No one said, "You know that 6 months is running out. You're cutting it." Nothing. So why would I think this wasn't an appropriate visa for my situation? Like, when I come here, I do travel. Me and Jessica, once a month, she shows me around Bristol. We go to Durdledore. She showed me Oxford. We went to Cotswold. We went to Wales. We went to Cardiff. Like, I am traveling around the country. I got to finally go up to Scotland last year. And not only that, it's a really nice place to be for seeing the rest of Europe as well. Like, when I want to take a trip to Amsterdam, or when I want to go to Paris or Berlin or Dublin or Milan, it's a nice, convenient hub to return to before I go somewhere else. Anyway, so it's 5:30. We go back to that room. and it's a whole new set of staff. And there was a really sweet lady there. She was like, oh, we just go in and we haven't done our checks, so she can't be here because there's like private information going around and she can't be here to hear that. There's like, yeah, but she's been here for a while and she hasn't eaten anything. So they're like, oh, well, you know, bless, I'm sorry, but she can't be here. So then this other guy came in and I was worried he was going to be a huge asshole because my first impression of him, he was yelling at people. He was like, she can't be in here. I'm not even on the clock yet. Yeah, I haven't done my checks. So she's got to go. She's got to go. She can't be in here. And then they're like, well, she can't be with us anymore because she needs to eat. And he was like, well, go get HR, go get HR. And I'm just sitting there like, yo, like, is this really happening right now? So somebody gives me a bag of chips, but I can't eat it outside of the room. So they told me to sit there. The two, should I call them like clown 1 and clown 2? I don't even know what to call them. They didn't have names or anything. And I wish, on top of that, like, I'm sorry, it's hard to keep track of everything. There's so much I want to say. So we sit there for a little bit. And they tell me I have to go come back in like 30 minutes. So like, fine, whatever. We go back to the fingerprint room and we're sitting there in silence for 30 minutes because I can't be on my phone. I'm like, every now and then I will give it so the one that was like the trainee, or I assume was the trainee, had like a comb over. I'll just call him comb over. And I was like, can I like just text my mom and Marika and my grand, like just to update them because they're very worried about me. I've been in detainment since 10 this morning. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. You can send a text. So he did let me do that. And well, you know, we're just sitting there in silence otherwise because I'm not supposed to be on my phone. And then I was like, so how much longer is this going to be? Like, nobody's really told me anything yet. And he said, well, you know, we searched your luggage, so we can already check that off. But soon you're going to go to the care room and then somebody else is going to interview you. It won't be us. Please remember that. They said it won't be us. We're not going to be the ones to interview you. Someone else will interview you, gather the information, and then someone else will make the decision. And we'll let you know if you can land or if you got to be sent back to wherever you came from. So then 6 o'clock rolls around. I go back to the care room. And again, the lady there was so nice. And she was like, oh, bless, like, how long have you been here? And I was like, well, I landed at 10 and I've been in detainment since 10:15 and it's 6 p.m. now. And they're like, wait, you've not eaten? I was like, nope. And they're like, oh my God, bless. Like, she was very sweet. And she's like, okay, well, we'll let you pick out some food. And, you know, you can go in there. There's snacks, there's juice, there's coffee, there's tea. And I was like, okay, great, thanks. So they explained to me, like, they take my luggage, they take my phone. I had to take off my Fitbit because it's digital. Wasn't allowed to have any way to communicate with other people, I guess. So she searches me, make sure I don't have anything. And then they put me in the room. And I sit there, literally in this room, it felt like prison because not only was the toilet like a metal bowl like you see in prison toilet, it literally, the bathrooms looked like a prison bathroom. Long rows of chairs bolted down, and there's like tables with seats bolted like near the table. There's people crying, people upset because they're in that detainment room and they've either been told they're about to have to leave or they know that they're about to be questioned about it. So there was a guy in the back, eyes red, clearly was just crying. There was another guy, didn't really speak English. He didn't say anything to anybody. And there was another girl who just kept sniffling. So I think she was trying to not cry. I asked him, like, how long is this going to be roughly? Because, you know, I still was trying to make Marika's party at some capacity. They told me it would be about 3 hours, like, for me to sit there and think about what I want to say. I was like, I've been here since 10:15. I already know my situation, my story. Like, I know what I need to say. I know what happened. Like, so I eat my little ready meal. I have some water, and I got in that room about 6:30. So it was about 8:40 something when I finally got called to be interviewed. And one thing I will say, again, like, the staff, aside from these two goons, were very, very nice. And like the lady, they would come in periodically and check on people. Like, do you guys need anything? Do you need any water? Are you hungry? Do you know the bathroom's right there? And the TV was on. Like, I have nothing else to do. I don't have my phone or anything, no computer, nothing. So I was just staring at the TV. And it was like Karate Kid, but with Hilary Swank. I didn't know she was in any of the Karate Kid movies, but it was also really low. And the lady came in and noticed that. So she turned it up, and I just turned and I'm like, oh, the volume. So I was like, oh, thank you. She was like, yeah, why didn't you even say anything? It's so quiet. And she's like, do you want to change the channel? I think the Olympics are on. Like, she was really nice. And every so often the door opens and you look hoping it's your turn to be interviewed. But when they come in, they call people out, or they're coming in with paper, and they're so loud about everything too. They're like, right, you're right. And the guy's like, yes. He's like, so the reason we've denied your visa is we have found sufficient evidence that you're illegally working in the UK. And I'm just like, wow, like, they were not trying to be discreet. Like, let me let you know, you're not going to be landed in the UK. And here's why. They were screaming. I was just sitting there like, bruh. Please remember that. That's also a very important thing to remember, because when you're finding out your status, like if you're going or you're staying, they're very loud about it. So from 6:30, I was in the room. It was about 8:40 something when they finally called me to be interviewed. And guess what? It was the same two guys who searched my bags. Remember, they told me somebody else would interview me. Here they are interviewing me. So we sitting there in this room, they explain, they're like, can you understand me? Can you hear everything? I was like, yes, I can hear. And it's like, if there's any point in the interview you don't understand me, please let me know and we'll repeat the question. And I think low key that the guy started to have an attitude with me because they both had pretty heavy Indian accents. And there were some words I was just like, I'm sorry. Like, I really didn't understand what they were saying, because he would take a deep breath and be like, and repeat himself like I'm the dumb one. I was like, look, I just didn't understand you. It's not that deep. Relax. So they're telling me that the reason I'm in trouble is because I've been in the UK for more than 6 months in the last rolling 12 months. And here's the thing. That is not actually a rule anywhere in this country. Not only has everyone I've ever met here told me that rule, I also talked to a lawyer about this, and I've never been in trouble, stopped, questioned, or warned by any immigration or border force person before ever. This guy's telling me, let me show you what the web says. And this is according to freemovement.org. And they also have links to the UK or UK.gov sites. So they have government sources. It says there is no 180-day-a-year rule for visitors to the UK. One of the most common UK immigration myths is that there is a maximum permitted stay of 180 days in a year or 6 months and 12 months for UK visitors. This myth has been propagated not just by migrants, but also by advisors and even UK border force staff. There is no such rule. So when I finally heard that that's the reason I was still here, I was just like, oh my God. 10:15 a.m. until about 8:40 p.m. and they're telling me it's because I violated a rule that does not exist. And the reason I made sure that I knew I was not breaking this rule, because when I first came to the UK, it was only supposed to be for 3 weeks. I bought a round trip ticket, and when I travel, I like to collect passports and stickers and stuff. So I was disappointed when I landed. I went through an e-gate. I was like, oh damn, I don't get a sticker or a stamp. That sucks. So I was like, how do I know how long I can be here? Marika's like, oh yeah, you're American, so you get 6 months. I was like, that's a lot of time. I was like, so is it like in Korea where if I leave and come back, I get another 6? She was like, yeah, I think so. Because for those who don't know, in Korea, I know many people who would go for their 3 months and on like the 89th day, go to Japan for a day, come back, get a fresh 90 days. Many people did that. It was no problems that I'm aware of because they kept doing it. And so far, I've been able to do that too. I first landed in September of 2021, and I didn't leave until December of 2021 because I was with the asshole ex and we went home for Christmas. And then when I came back, January, I left again for Valentine's Day. We went to Paris, came back. We went to Germany in April, came back. I went to Korea in May, came back. That was September when I came back again. And then I went home for Christmas, came back. Like, there's a lot of times me going and coming back, and no one's ever stopped me or questioned me. It was like, you've been here a long time. And at this point, it has been more than 6 months in a rolling 12-month period. Never been stopped, never been questioned, never been warned, nothing. And what was so frustrating is, like I said, I'm pretty sure that this guy was like training this guy, the comb over guy, because not only was the comb over guy constantly like fumbling with his key cards, he's, oh, I gotta use this key card, and he even like wrote down the wrong time that I first got detained, and that made me mad because if I didn't tell the lady that I was here since 10, she might not have clocked it, because he wrote down that I was only there since 5 p.m. I was like, she was like, wait, that's not right. Why does it say she's arrived at 5? And I was like, huh? I was like, no, I've been here since 10. They detained me at 10:15. He's like, oh, that's not right. And he crosses out and has to write the right time. And on top of that, he's like looking to the guy like, do I ask this? Do I write that down? He's like, yeah, make sure you ask that. Part of me really high key thinks that they kept me so they could train him. And what was so frustrating is the guy was very condescending. Like I said, he kept getting frustrated with me because there were times where I did not understand him. He has a heavy accent. I was like, here's the way I see things. I don't deny that I've been in the UK frequently and often. When I come, I stay for months and months and months at a time. I'm here a lot of the time. I'm not denying that. What I am saying is I did not know that was a problem because I was never told that was a problem. So then he says, yeah, but when you travel to a country, it's your job to inform yourself of the local laws. I can't go to America, shoot someone in the face and say, I didn't know that was illegal. Where, first of all, that is a shitty example because objectively murder is bad in every country, first of all. Second, there are often many times where when tourists go to another country and they do something they're not supposed to do and they're like, oh, so do you, I didn't know I'm a foreigner. And they're like, it's okay, you know, they get a warning unless it's something like shooting someone in the face, obviously. So I told him, I was like, well, can this just be my warning then? Because I've never been informed of this rule. Like, I told him, I was like, my friend told me, but he's like, and who's your friend? I was like, Marika. And he's like, oh, right. And she's just a pharmacist. She's not the immigration. She's not the government. She's not a border customs worker. I was like, he is so fucking rude. On top of that, I told him that I spoke to a lawyer about this, because back in the day when me and my ex were trying to figure out, oh, am I going to stay here? Are we moving to the States? We were trying to figure out what we were going to do if we were going to be in a relationship. So we wanted to get some advice from an immigration lawyer. Like, hey, I'm American. I've been in the UK for, as of this point, about 8 months. No, what's it? No, that was like February. Okay, so it was about 5 months that I was in the UK at that point. 5 of the last rolling 12. So she told me, oh, you could always be a student again. I was like, it's COVID. I'm not really trying to be around more people, and I don't know if I necessarily want to study here. She's like, okay, well, that's fine. She's like, well, you explained your situation, and because you are able to like find, here's the things that people like, as long as you don't do these things, then you'll be fine. One, she said, make sure I'm not working illegally. I'm not trying to earn any income on the side here, because all the wages need to go to like lawful, rightful UK citizens. Fine. I'm a YouTuber. I make my own money. Check. That was one of the rules. Checked. Then she told me to make sure I can financially sustain myself. Again, check. She also said, because one of the things that they worry about is when foreigners come here and then they need like financial assistance and government assistance on like public funding, public housing and things like that. And I'm not doing that. So again, another check. She also said to make sure that each visit is no longer than 6 months. And when I told him that, he just goes, okay. And then when I told him, I was like, I've done my research, like I've looked online. There is no rule. Like, I've seen that this is a myth. I've never been told that this is actually a rule. And he goes, well, the internet, I can't remember exactly what he said, and it frustrates me. But he said something like, yeah, well, the internet is not the law, or the internet isn't the government. I'm like, so what do you want from me? Like, you tell me that it's your job to inform yourself of the local laws before you travel, which I have done. But now because you don't approve of the methods that I've done, it doesn't count. So he's like, so for this visit, how long were you planning to be here? I was like, honestly, I don't know. I'm thinking October, November, because I was planning to go to Hong Kong to visit my boyfriend again. He's like, but you don't know, and you don't have a return ticket. I was like, I never buy a return ticket. And I gave him the example of how I was just home for what was planned as a family reunion and a family trip. And then we ended up having a funeral to go to too. And because I didn't buy a return ticket, I was able to make the funeral. So things like that. I was like, stuff always happens where I need to leave sooner. I might need to stay longer. And I just rather get 2 one-way tickets so I'm not wasting my money. And another thing I'll say about this dude is I feel like because he was training the other guy, he internalized the role as good cop and bad cop, because he contradicted himself a lot, where sometimes he's like, yes, okay, I understand. And he's asking me questions like, oh, you lived in Korea. Did you speak Korean? Oh, you can speak some Korean. That's cool. He was nice sometimes, and then a complete asshole who would talk over me and try to belittle me. And I'm just like, who are you? Like,
wait a minute. Who are you?
So then, as the interview is coming to an end, he says, okay, so is there any compelling reason as to why we should allow you into the UK? I was like, no. Like, if I've broken a rule, I can leave and go away for 12 months or whatever and let this 12 rolling month thing reset. That's not a problem. What I'm mad about is that this was dragged out all damn day. At this point, it's like 9:15 p.m. I've been here since 10:15 a.m. in detainment. Oh, that's another thing. They were trying so hard to get me like to trip up and say something I shouldn't, because they're asking me like, so I see you went to Milan. I was like, yep. And he's like, do you know the dates? I was like, I can tell you roughly the month and the year. And he was like, okay, so when'd you go? I was like, it was mid-October 2023. And he was like, okay, the date. I was like, I don't know. Was it like the 18th or the 17th? He was like, it was the 12th. I was like, you got me. Okay, it was the 12th. I told you I don't know the exact date, but it was roughly mid-October. And then when he asked me about like my relationship with Marika, because again, they were trying to spin this thing that we're like together. And then he asked me like, when I come here, if she buys my food, if she's responsible for me. I was like, no, I go to the grocery store myself. Her mom does cook because her mom makes amazing food. I take care of myself. And he was like, so how big is the house? I was like, 4 bedrooms. And he looked at me like he didn't believe me. He asked me, is she married? I'm like, no. Kids? No. And what's so annoying is they got her number from me. It was around 3 or 4 p.m. and they didn't call her. And I texted her. I was like, hey, if you get a random number, it might be immigration. So like, please pick up. Because again, she's trying to have her own party as well. And they didn't call her till after my interview. And of course, our answers aligned because I'm not hiding anything. They were trying so hard to get me to say something I should. That was crazy, dude. And they're like, so have you ever, earned any income on the side? Like when you come here, are you working here? Have you ever helped out a friend and been paid for it? I was like, no, nothing whatsoever. And he's like, but do you come here for work purposes? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you come here for your YouTube content. I was like, no, absolutely not. I did try to vlog when I first got here and go around London, but it has been made very clear that the people who watch my videos are not interested in London or European content. So I stick to Korea. And they're like, oh, Korea, which one? I was like, what? He's like, north or south? I'm like, south. Like, so yeah, that's pretty much how that interview went. Like I don't know what the fuck. So then I was like, look, you keep telling me, he's like, this is the law. Like, it's right here in black and white. Like, this is it. You broke the law. And I was like, okay, if you're telling me I broke the law, then send me the fuck back home. Like, why am I still here being questioned? Like, I will go home. That is no problem. I don't mind popping over to Korea, kill some time, hang out there with some friends, go to Hong Kong, see my boyfriend. Like, I have other stuff to do. Like, please just let me go home then. And then they had the nerve to ask me, okay, so if you are rejected, again, we don't know the outcome because we don't make that decision. Remember that as well. We don't make that decision. We've conducted this interview. We're going to pass this information on to someone else and they're going to be the ones to make the decision. I was like, okay. And it's like, so if you are asked to leave and go back home, will you be able to pay for that ticket? I was like, no. I was like, I just paid $1,200 to come here. Y'all can pay to send me back. Like, the fuck do I look like paying for? No. So I asked them, I was like, okay, so when I go back, they told me, now that this interview's over, you're going to go back to the care room. Is there anything you don't understand or anything that wasn't clear? Like, have you understood everything that we said? I was like, not really. And he was like, what do you mean not really? I was like, you keep telling me I broke this 6-month and a 12-month rolling period, but can you please show me that law? Because I've never seen that law ever in my life. I've talked to a lawyer. I've Googled it. I've talked to friends. Like, I've never heard of this rule before. He's like, well, when you get your decision letter, like, they'll let you know it. Because at this point, I was so convinced I was absolutely going to be going back to the States, which, again, no big deal. So I was like, okay, so how long before I get my rejection letter? Because that's what I said. He's like, oh, it should be about 3 hours. I was like, oh my God. And he's like, and don't worry, on that letter, it'll tell you the reason you've been rejected. Like, it'll have the article, the annex, all that. I was like, okay, cool, thanks. So that's finally it. So then I go back to the care room, and now that it's later, it's like dark and there's only one guy in there, and he was kind of freaking me out because he was hugging this pillow and just talking to himself, and I was like, oh my God. But at this point, I was just over it. I put my head down and I went to sleep. I get a tap on my shoulder and I wake up. It's, I don't know, 10:30 or something, and I'm half asleep, so I'm just rubbing. I'm just like, what's going? Because mind you, I just had an overnight flight where I barely slept on the flight, and I was in detainment for 12 hours, so I've not slept really. So then I get out to the room, and then the lady, she's like, you all right? And I was like, yeah, sure, fine, whatever. And they're telling me to sign a document that tells me that I'm being released from detainment, because I'm thinking, okay, they're about to escort me back to this flight. I guess there's one that takes me to the States like right now. So then we get out of this little room where all the people were sitting in, all the workers, keep this in mind. I got my trolley with all my luggage, and we go out right before like the nothing to declare green gate. And the bad cop, good cop, bad cop guy, he tells me, right, so I've decided to give you the benefit of the doubt and let you into the country. I've stamped your passport 6 months, but you must leave in 2 weeks. If you don't leave, you won't be able to come back. And I was like, I'm half asleep. So I'm like, what? Why does it say 6 months then if you're telling me 2 weeks? Like, what is that? And I didn't even realize how sus this was until like last night and right before I was about to tell the story again. Why did he pull me to the side to tell me this 2-week thing he was putting, like he was adding a stipulation? He's like, we're going to be tracking your entry and your exit, and if you're not gone, then you won't be allowed back. And I was like, bro, every time you use your passport, you're being tracked anyway. Like, what are you talking about? And like I said earlier, when people were rejected or whatever, they were very loud about the reason. We found sufficient evidence to believe that you've been working in the UK illegally. Like, they were not subtle about it. Like, hey, let me tell you something. He didn't announce it in the room in front of the nice lady or in front of that other guy. He waited till we were outside away from everybody, showed me the stamp and said, and again, he wasn't supposed to be the one to make the decision. The same 2 guys who searched my bags told me somebody else would be interviewing me, yet it was the same 2 guys interviewing me. And then in the interview, they told me somebody else will make the decision on whether I'm returned or I can stay. Yet he claims to be the one to have given me the benefit of the doubt and decided to let me stay. Even though it says 6 months in my passport with the date of detainment. And then he says, but you got to leave in 2 weeks. So as of right now, I have been emailing other lawyers because I just want to know what all my options are as an American here, because I'm not trying to work here. I'm not trying to like buy housing or anything like that. Like, I just like being here and exploring. Like, I don't know for how long, because I might go to Hong Kong again. I might go to Korea and be like, you know what, Korea's still lit. Let me stay here for a little bit longer. I might decide I want to go back to Cali and hang out there. Like, I don't know. I'm not trying to get like a work visa. I'm not trying to be here like permanently. And that's why I thought the tourist visa was fine, because as long as I leave and return and I'm not breaking any rules, I'm not working illegally, I'm not trying to take government funds, I can financially support myself. And that's why from 2021 until now, it's never been a problem. I've never been questioned, stopped, or warned. So I need to know what all my options are. And I really want to explain this whole situation to like actual lawyers, because something was not right about that guy. I really want to go see a lawyer. I've been emailing them. It's the weekend, so I'm expecting to hear back from them like sometime this week. and I will update you guys as soon as there's any new development. But yeah, needless to say, I absolutely missed Marika's birthday, which is such bullshit. And as soon as I got out, I'm calling everybody. They're like, oh, okay, we'll come and get you now. And I was like, Mom, I'm finally out. And they're like, what did they say? And I told them how, even though my passport now says, and this is the first time I ever got a UK stamp or sticker, by the way, and it says 6 months and it has the date. And then he tells me 2 weeks. She was like, that don't even sound right. I'm like, I know, right? The fact that he had to tell me that in secret, like to the side and not in front of everybody else, I feel like he was citing a bogus, non-existent rule, got called out on it, felt embarrassed, but like wanted to prove that he was still in the right by saying, I've decided to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to take the moral high ground, but you still got to leave in 2 weeks. I can totally understand the suspicion of people thinking that I'm coming here and trying to make it like my home or trying to live here permanently. Or I totally get it. It looks like that. But the thing is, I really do just be where I am until I don't want to be there anymore. Like, honestly, if it wasn't for Marika's birthday, I probably would have stayed home for a little bit longer. But I didn't want to miss Carnival, that concert, and her birthday. So now that I'm here, I'm going to see what's up, see what I should do next, see what other visa options I might have to apply for, and see what's up with that dude, because that was BS. That was me reliving the worst day of my life, where I was treated like a criminal and held on a bullshit, non-existent law, rule, whatever. And yeah, thank you for watching if you did. This was a ramble. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Annyeong.